Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots, brought to you by Snarful Solutions Group here in Sacramento, CA. I'm Alex.
And I'm Morgan. It's Friday, June 13th, 2025.
Hope you're having a great Friday. Quick look at the weather. Looks like widespread showers, thunderstorms across a lot of the central and eastern U.S. Some heavy rain possible, too.
Yeah, watch out for that, especially parts of the Mississippi Valley and the Gulf Coast. Here in Sacramento, though, pretty nice. Sunny, heading into the mid-80s later.
Sounds good. And the markets, as of Friday's close, the Dow ended the week at 42,505.91.
And the S&P 500 closed shop at 6,007.53.
So today, we're using the Snarful Internal Tech article report to connect the dots on three major tech stories.
That's right. They seem kind of separate on the surface, but when you look closer, they really weave together this picture of, well, AI acceleration, the friction that creates, and how global competition is shaping everything.
Exactly. It feels like AI is just rocketing forward, but at the same time, it's hitting these roadblocks, right? Like how it affects jobs or these big international trade issues.
Let's start with that first big story, a real shakeup in the AI world involving Scale AI and Meta.
Right. Scale AI's co-founder and CEO, Alexandr Wang, is stepping down.
And he's moving over to Meta. This comes right after Meta made a very significant investment in Scale AI.
Significant is putting it mildly. We're talking reported numbers like $14.3 billion, giving Meta a 49% stake.
And valuing Scale AI at around $29 billion. Just a massive valuation.
Well, okay, so Scale AI, they do the data labeling, right? The stuff that actually teaches the AI models.
Yep.
Why is Meta making such a huge play here and bringing Wang over?
Well, Scale AI is a key player. They provide that really high-quality labeled data you absolutely need to train the big, large language models, the LLMs, powering a lot of the generative AI tools you might be using. For Meta, this looks like a really strategic move. Reports suggest they felt they were maybe playing catch-up a bit, compared to rivals like Google, OpenAI, Anthropic.
Trying to close the gap.
Seems like it. And they reportedly lost some key AI talent last year, too. So bringing in Wang, who's a known leader in this foundational data space, plus getting this huge stake in his company, it signals they want to seriously boost their own AI efforts.
So Wang's role at Meta is specifically tied to their AI ambitions, not just a general executive hire.
Oh, very specific. Meta confirmed he's joining their, quote, superintelligence efforts. He's actually going to head up a new research lab.
A new lab. Focused on what exactly?
Focused on developing AI systems aiming for artificial superintelligence ASI. You know, AI that could potentially go way beyond human capabilities.
ASI, that's ambitious. And maybe a bit of a shift for Meta. I thought their chief scientist, Jan LeCun, had maybe different ideas about the best path towards advanced AI.
That's part of what makes this interesting. LeCun has reportedly been somewhat skeptical of the current massive LLM approach being the sole path to truly advanced AI. Bringing in Wang to lead an ASI lab suggests Meta might be exploring multiple avenues, or perhaps bringing in a different perspective at a high level.
Fascinating. So what does this mean for Scale AI itself? They lose their CEO, gain a massive investor who's also a customer, and a competitor to their other customers.
Right, it's complicated. Scale AI is emphasizing that it remains an independent entity. Jason Droege, their chief strategy officer, he's stepping in as interim CEO.
Okay.
And Wang will stay on the board. Scale AI also mentioned the investment helps pay back earlier investors and will, fuel their growth.
But what about those other customers, like Google or Microsoft? They use Scale AI too, don't they? Are they worried about Meta having influence?
That's the critical point Scale AI is trying to manage. They've stated that Meta's stake, even though it's huge, 49%, does not come with voting power.
Oh, right.
And crucially, Meta won't get access to other customers' business information or proprietary data that Scale handles. That separation is key for Scale to maintain trust in the market.
So the takeaway here is Meta is making a big, aggressive move to accelerate its AI development, securing talent and data resources, while Scale AI tries to balance its independence and its roles serving the wider industry.
Exactly. And for you listening, it just underlines the intense competition happening behind the scenes. The race to build better AI really comes down to these foundational elements, like who has the best data and the right people.
Okay, so from developing AI, let's pivot to how AI is impacting creative work. Big news on that front, too. The SAG-AFTRA video game performers strike It's finally ended.
Wow, that went on for a long time. Over 320 days, wasn't it?
Felt like it. Started way back July 15th, 2024. What were the main sticking points that kept it going for so long?
Well, much like the earlier Hollywood strikes, it really boiled down to two core things. Fair pay, so wage increases, and maybe even more critically, AI regulation.
AI again.
Yes. Performers were really concerned about the unrestricted use of AI to, replicate their voices, their performances, their likenesses, potentially without their consent or fair compensation.
You can see why that's a huge concern for them. Their entire livelihood is based on their unique performance.
Absolutely. SAG-AFTRA's leadership, Fran Drescher and Duncan Crabtree Ireland, they emphasized that this tentative deal secures necessary, quote, AI guardrails.
AI guardrails. We hear that term a lot. What does it actually mean in this context? What did they secure?
It means putting rules in place. The core idea is about informed consent and fair pay specifically for AI uses. The union says this deal requires getting explicit permission from the performer each time AI is used to generate or manipulate their voice or performance.
Not just a one-time blanket permission.
Exactly. Informed consent for each specific use. And it also aims to establish how performers get paid for that AI usage, beyond just their initial session fee. It's about recognizing the ongoing value of their digital likeness.
That sounds like a pretty significant win for the performers, setting a precedent.
It's definitely seen that way. A major step in trying to protect creative professionals as this technology advances so rapidly. It affects not just game actors, but potentially anyone whose performance could be replicated by AI.
Okay, so this deal is agreed upon, but what's the next step? Is the strike officially over now?
Not quite yet officially over. It's a tentative agreement. It's been approved by the SAG-AFTRA negotiating committee, which is a big hurdle clear.
Right.
But now it has to go to the union's national board for review, and then, crucially, the union members themselves have to vote to ratify it.
So the members get the final say.
Correct. Until that ratification happens, they technically remain on strike, although they expect a strike suspension agreement soon, which would allow work to resume while the voting happens.
Got it. And which companies were they striking against? The big players?
Oh, yeah. Major video game companies like Activision, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Insomniac, Take-Two, Warner Bros. Games. The ones who rely heavily on these performers for voice acting, motion capture, stunts, everything that brings characters to life.
So for you, the listener, especially if you play games, this deal directly impacts the future of how the characters you see and hear are created. It's about ensuring the human artists behind them have control and are compensated fairly in this new AI era.
All right, let's connect one more dot. From AI development and labor impacts, let's look at the hardware side and global politics. Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, made a pretty striking announcement.
What was that?
He said Nvidia will essentially exclude the China market from its future revenue and profit forecasts.
Ooh, excluding China. For Nvidia, that seems huge. China's a massive market for their chips, isn't it?
It is, or it was becoming one for their high-end AI chips. This decision is a direct result of those strict U.S. export controls we've talked about before.
Yeah.
The U.S. government is limiting the sale of the most advanced AI chips to China, citing national security concerns.
And Jensen Huang has been pretty vocal about his feelings on those controls, hasn't he?
He really hasn't minced words. He recently called the export controls a failure, point blank.
A failure? What?
His argument is basically twofold. First, it's significantly hurt Nvidia's business. He said their market share in China dropped from like 95% down to maybe 50%. And second, he argues it's actually motivating China to double down and develop its own domestic chip capabilities faster. He mentioned Huawei making, quote, enormous progress.
So the restrictions might be having the opposite effect, in his view.
That's his argument. That the assumption China can't make these chips is flawed, and the U.S. policy hurts American companies while pushing China towards self-sufficiency.
Has this hit Nvidia financially in concrete ways?
Oh, definitely. They talked about leaving, I think it was $2.5 billion in revenue on the table in Q1 because of chips they couldn't sell.
Wow.
And for the current quarter, they apparently had about $8 billion in planned orders, specifically for their China-focused H20 chips that just had to be scrapped because the rules tightened again.
Right, the H20 chips. Those were the ones they designed specifically to comply with the earlier restrictions, weren't they?
Exactly. They were deliberately less powerful versions of their top chips, tailored for the China market under the previous rules. But then the U.S. government tightened the restrictions again, and even those modified H20 chips got caught up in it.
So pulling China out of the forecasts is basically acknowledging that the situation is too uncertain and the financial hit is real.
Precisely. Huang said he doesn't expect the controls to be lifted anytime soon, so removing China from the official forecast takes out that volatile variable, as he put it, for investors. It's like, zero-basing China. Any sales they do manage to make there now will just be considered upside, not part of the baseline expectation.
Man, it sounds like Nvidia is really caught in the middle here, trying to follow U.S. policy while not losing a massive market.
They absolutely are. Huang is walking a tightrope. You see him engaging with U.S. politicians, but also saying Nvidia will, quote, unswervingly serve the Chinese market where legally possible, and even praising Chinese tech progress.
It's a tough balancing act. U.S. says national security, China calls it bullying.
And Nvidia is trying to navigate it all. Huang's message seems to be, look, China will figure this out one way or another, with or without our top chips.
So for you, the listener, this affects more than just Nvidia's stock price. It impacts the whole global tech supply chain, the speed of AI development worldwide, and potentially the cost and features of the tech products and services you use every day that depend on these advanced chips. Okay, so let's recap the connections we've drawn today. First, Meta's huge investment in scale AI and hiring its CEO, showing this intense race for AI dominance right down to the data level.
Then the end of the long SAG-AFTRA strike in gaming, securing those crucial AI guardrails for performers, highlighting the push for human protection and regulation amidst technological change.
And finally, Nvidia's strategic shift away from forecasting China revenue, forced by U.S. chip controls, demonstrating how global trade tensions are directly shaping the hardware foundation of the AI revolution.
3 stories, all pointing to this complex interplay between AI's rapid advance, the societal and economic friction it causes, and the geopolitical forces shaping its future.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? With AI pushing forward so fast on so many fronts, development, creative disruption, hardware competition, but also running into these significant demands for control, for ethical guidelines, for national security limits. What's the next few years going to look like?
Yeah, will innovation keep outpacing regulation, or will these friction points start to fundamentally alter the trajectory of AI development? It's a huge question.
Definitely something to keep watching.
Absolutely.
We are here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.